It's been a thoroughly disappointing second day in this first Test match as far as the weather's concerned. We've had lots of excitement on the field when we could, but bad light and rain restricted the innings to 125 for 4. That means that India are still 58 runs behind. We had a somewhat farcical performance in which the fielders came out, bowled one ball, off they went again, another delay, they came on again and bowled two balls before going off once again. At that point, the umpires decided, with rain falling, that enough was enough. Rahul was 57 not out at that stage and Rishabh Pant on 7, but a lot of excitement along the way. India's openers almost made it all the way through the first session on the stroke of lunch after lots of playing and missing and so on, and some pretty bad luck actually for England's bowlers who kept persevering. Robinson bowled a bouncer, possibly the first of the morning, and Rohit Sharma hooked it straight down Curran's throat at long leg for 36. Sharma out then with a score on 97. Pujara came out after lunch. He was given out LBW, which he successfully reviewed, but on 4 he edged a ball that kept a little bit low off Anderson, was taken by Buttler. That was 104 for 2. It was replayed and reviewed. In that time, I think Virat Kohli, having seen one replay, thought, that's it, he's out. And he was on the boundary edge, and he came out incredibly quickly, by modern standards at least. He overtook Pujara on the way. He was ready to go, bristling as Kohli always does. His first ball, he pushed outside the off stump and edged it to Buttler without scoring. And while Anderson wheeled around celebrating, giving everything he could, there was teammates slapping him on the back. There was that rather dejected side of Kohli standing there looking rather bewildered and just playing that shot again as if he couldn't quite believe it. It was just like a replay, and off he went and potted off out for naught. Rahane was run out by Bairstow, a direct hit hitting the stumps at the non-striker's end after he was sent back actually by Rahul. He didn't seem to want to run, and Rahane wasn't very pleased about that. Rahul was dropped on 52 by Sibley, again off Anderson, who's bowling this terrific spell from the Radcliffe Road end. And Rishabh Pant got off the mark in an extraordinary way with all this going on, a huge swipe, which he's scythed over point for 3 runs. So, lots of excitement. It was terrific cricket. Those people I'm sure have been here will have had a good time. Just disappointing that we've lost so much time today. 125 for 4. So, India 58 runs behind. They've got 6 wickets left. Who would he start with? Michael Vaughan, let's start with you. Strange day.
Yeah, strange day, obviously, with the weather. It was always going to rain at some stage on the second day. You know, looking at the forecast, I thought Rohit Sharma and Rahul in the mornings played brilliantly. Yeah, it was Test match cricket of the highest quality. England were bowling nicely. They hung in there. They played and missed it. Many deliveries, then started to expand on a few strokes. Joe Root was trying to change the field. He was bowling Sam Curran over the wicket, round the wicket, Anderson from both ends, just trying to create something. And it took that bouncer from Robinson just on the lunch break to get that key wicket. After lunch, there was a bit of carnage. India's kind of batting lineup, as much as it looks on paper very solid with high batting averages over the last year or so, it's vulnerable. You know, you really feel it's not quite in the England category, but you do feel if you get 1 or 2, there's 3 and 4 closely to follow. And the panic stations of Ajinkya Rahane getting running out, it was brilliant from Bairstow, but you know that really shouldn't happen. You know, 2 experienced pros out there, and at that stage England had all the momentum, and then the weather came and going off for the light. I didn't agree with. Somehow Test match cricket has to work out a better way of making sure that the players stay out in the middle. Obviously, if it's dangerous, it didn't seem to be dangerous at that stage, and the umpires took them off. I'm sure they're under guidelines from higher up than the 2 officials out in the middle, but that's a frustration for Test match cricket fans, particularly in a full house. The atmosphere was absolutely buzzing, and the teams walked off. They've only played another 20-25 minutes, but you want to see as much cricket as you possibly can.
Yeah. We'll talk about that light issue perhaps over the next few minutes or so. Alistair Cook, what about watching Rohit Sharma, naturally a stroke player, battling away in conditions that are pretty alien to him, doing all that hard work, and then, fair play to the bowler, something different, bang, a bouncer. Hit it well, but took the wicket.
It was a really clever bouncer because it was high. You know, Rohit Sharma, if you're talking about him in the pre-match, where do you not want to bowl at him? You don't want him to play the pull shot. In one-day cricket, he's got a devastating pull shot. That back of a length ball, he pulls and puts it into the stand. But this one was a high bounce, and also the direction of it. It was just as a right-hander, just on his left shoulder. And as it was high, you lose all control of it, and he could only, his eyes were lit up, not having too much to hit all day in those 2 hours. Oh, that's a big scoring shot, and as it got big on him and high, he couldn't control it, and as it was on his left shoulder, it went fine, and literally Sam Curran didn't move. He did not move. So a good, clever bit of bowling by Ollie Robinson, who's been very, very impressive in his only in his second Test match. But before that, Rohit and Rahul played so well. They left the ball really well. They played their defensive shots so late, and just as a commentator watching it, it looked so calm and controlled, didn't it? They didn't look. They might have been battling demons in their mind, but outwardly they were very calm, very relaxed. And actually, at one stage, England, you saw a real frustrated England side.
What if it was a plan to bowl that bouncer, whether Root had suggested to Robinson, go on, give him one, or whether Robinson, only his second Test, running and bowling at a fine player, whether he had it about him to think, I'm going to give him one. I've been pitching it up and moving it about. Let's see if this does something.
Well, I reckon it's Ollie Robinson. I think it looks to me, I've not seen a huge amount of him. I saw him a bit at Yorkshire. I've seen him on the telly bowling for Sussex. I've seen him now in a first Test at Lords where he was exceptional. I've now seen him bowl a few overs here at Trent Bridge. He just looks like a natural bowler. He looks like he's got that ability to bowl that kind of delivery at the right time. He's very, very impressive. Rohit has been out in that way quite a few times. In one-day cricket, even though it's a strength of his, it's also a weakness because he does go up, he hits the ball in the air. From 97 for naught, even the rain, and it's been frustrating. England would have wanted more time in the afternoon because of where they've got themselves in the Test match. From 97 for naught to getting 4 wickets quite quickly, England have just given themselves a glimmer. It's just a glimmer. The 58 runs is not a great deal on paper, but on this kind of surface, in these kind of conditions, the ball will continue to move around. You could easily see India losing 3 or 4 quick ones, and that tail it's an old-fashioned tail from 9, 10, 11. That I can't imagine is going to last too long. And we've got a player in Rishabh Pant that will sleep tonight and will arrive tomorrow morning. And I don't care who you support, you're excited about watching someone like Rishabh Pant because who knows what's going to happen.
We'll talk about that shot to get off the mark in a second, but let's talk about Kohli. There'll be club cricketers everywhere, who are looking. So, even Kohli gets out first ball. Well, in fact, he's done it now in successive innings against England in England. What is it? Because if he'd been set a little bit, I think he'd have left that, wouldn't he? There are batsmen sometimes who you just know want to feel that bat on the ball. It looked to be one of those instances.
Yeah, I think you called it quite nicely, saying I didn't see him on the boundary edge. He was so desperate to get out there, and probably as you do at the start of your innings, where the adrenaline's going, the buzz. Even great players like Kohli will have felt the nerves going out there, and I think he was just probably overhyped. But perfect ball from James Anderson. In the one weakness he does have is that 4th to 5th stump ball he does play out. Even in India where he plays that line, but in India where it's slightly slower, you get the way of it, you can adjust if it does move a little bit. But obviously in England where it just kisses that surface, those nicks tend to carry, and it was perfect execution. And just the game of cricket just always throws up these things. James Anderson couldn't get him out last series. For all the drop catches he had, he probably bowled that same ball to him, 80, 90 times in that last series, never got him out. Coming in a different series, different day. First time, thanks a lot, nicks it.
That's one of the great things about cricket, isn't it? Don Bradman, final innings, second ball, duck. Virat Kohli here, first ball, duck. It's a great leveller.
Yeah, but it's also, whatever happens here this week, it's a great start to the series for England playing against Virat Kohli. Virat has got it in him to do what Steve Smith did in 2019, to have a series where he gets 3 or 4 centuries. Is completely the difference between the two sides. We've seen him do that against other teams. We've seen him do it here on one occasion. He's that good a player that if you can get him early like they've got him today, and you can have Jimmy Anderson just having just a small element of the wool over his eyes when he goes out there, because you know what you're going to get. As soon as he takes guard, Jimmy, you're on. Whatever the wicket has been that's got the previous wicket, Jimmy Anderson's going to be bowling to Virat Kohli. It's going to be a contest over the next 6 or 7 weeks that's going to be fantastic to watch, because Jimmy will bowl with his skill, and he will bowl that in, he'll bowl that outer, he'll bowl consistently on length. And Virat, will he have to change the way like he did last time here and just leave and wait for Jimmy Anderson, or will he try and be more aggressive? It's going to be fascinating to see which way he goes about it.
Yeah, in 2018, he got off to a great start in that series. He's getting 100 in his first game. Obviously, in 2014, he really struggled. So there'll always be that little doubt in his mind of English conditions. Even though he had a good tour last year, he could think, oh no, I'll start to nick them. And if he has a bad game, in this game, and then he goes to the next one, I don't care who you are, you want to score runs. Time in the middle is the only thing which gets you, gets that rhythm going. And if you get Virat Kohli with 2 or 3 low scores out of his first 4 games, first 4 knocks, that puts huge pressure on the other batting lineup of India, which, as Michael said, on paper brilliant, moving ball, always fancy your chances.
It was the way he stood there afterwards. He just
it was almost
couldn't believe it.
It was almost like he was going to say, "Come on, Virat Kohli, I can't be out first."
Go to WG Grace.
Quite a lot of people have paid a lot of money to watch me, but how dare I get out their first ball?
I try to think, what's it like? Obviously, some of us have never been out first ball, but in a Test match, did you get out first ball, Cookie? I can't remember.
Of course, you knew I got out first ball.
Did you?
Ryan Harris, definitely. That's
of course.
At Perth, 100
yes.
Test match. 100. Whatever that was quite good. I don't think I was hitting that in a million. I reckon I've done it twice. I can't remember the other one.
What's it like? Because suddenly you build up, you're out there, guard looking around, bang, it's all over. It must be a pretty strange feeling.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? But I think
one day cricket I did.
Yeah.
I think on that one, that is a case again, just a good bit of bowling, isn't it? I remember the Ryan Harris one.
Oh,
the Ryan Harris one where at Perth, second innings, where it didn't hit a crack, but then kind of just swung after.
Yeah,
I'm never hitting that. I'm never hitting that. So actually, I feel better then than I do if I got a 20 or a 30, because you've done the hard yard, you're in. That's when you, as a batsman, that's when you have to go on, because you get those times. Actually, I didn't feel bad. Apart from the embarrassment and everyone in Perth shouting at you, laughing at you as you walk upstairs, once you can close the door and no one can see you, you're right.
Yeah. So this shot of Pants, then, we wondered we didn't really wonder how he was going to play. We knew how he was going to play. But, to play such a total swipe in that situation, we've described all the excitement. They've just lost 3 wickets for 8. And he has an utter hack that could have gone anywhere. He got 3. It sort of clothed it over cover, didn't he? But he was aiming somewhere towards mid-wicket, I think. What is it about?
Well, I think this is a cricketer that, I think the game needs. I think, he's going to get criticised because he's going to play some shots in his time that, he probably won't want to replay. But I just think we've got a cricketer that we as England kind of fans, if you like, we're still excited to arrive tomorrow to see this kid play, because he plays in that fashion. And if you actually look at the actual reason why he did that, he knows that Jimmy Anderson's going to land the ball on the length. He knows Jimmy's not going to bowl short, and he feels like if he's going to be defending around off stump to that length ball, there's probably a good chance that he's going to snick it. So he just went, you know what, it's probably more in his favour the way that he plays to dance down and hit that length and just go over the top. Yeah, it was a little bit of fortune. If he gets out doing so, it doesn't look great.
What do you say?
He's been out a few times in Test cricket where he gets pelters. I actually respect the fact that he doesn't seem to be changing his way. And I think in Test match cricket there are so many right ways to play the game. The orthodox way, Rohit Sharma, KL Rahul, Joe Root yesterday. That I think the game needs his style of player. Whether it's right for him to be at 6. That's the debate. Can you play in that fashion batting at 6 in Test cricket? It's more a 7 or an 8 position. But I just love what he brings to the game. I just think Test cricket... Test cricket over the last few years, we complain about it and say that the white ball era is taken over. I think we've had in the last year and a half possibly some of the great Test series. Look at India in Australia, look at England last summer against the West Indies, Pakistan, the Sri Lankan series away, the Indian series away. Yes, they're not the kind of Test matches that we used to see, because the game seems to be going quite far forward quickly because we're seeing these collapses. Most teams around the world have got a collapse in them.
Yeah.
When the ball just does a little bit, the mindset of the batter these days is not to, and Alice was the best of them, to kind of see off that bowler or see off that swinging ball. That mindset's gone to the bin. The mindset now is if it's swinging or it's doing a bit, right, we better get a few while we're out here. It's quite entertaining.
Yeah, I loved it. I was actually on TV commentary at the time, and the camera, after he played that shot, I think was it second ball? He did it. Like Ravi Shastri was laughing. Now,
yes, he was.
I made a point and said, would he have been laughing if that had gone straight to point and they lost 4 wickets in a short time? But he's definitely gone for the theory of he's going to nick me. He doesn't trust his defence, early on. I think the one thing Pant has, when I've watched him play, and and I actually said he can't carry on playing like this. He will get out. He actually then comes back a couple of gears. You know, he almost starts like this, whether it's just to get him going, and then he does play it. Now I think he plays a lot more sensibly in that innings. Those 80s that got in Australia to win in the chase. He might have started recklessly, but then he played the situation brilliantly. So he's a more thinking cricketer than we're giving credit for. But I think tomorrow morning I'd expect him to get him going to play those kind of shots, and I think he might rein in as the men go out. When we first saw him, he was that one gear. I mean, he got caught deep point about 3 or 4 times.
The one aspect to it is Joe Root will not sleep tonight that well, knowing that Rishabh's still there. He will want to see the back of Rishabh Pant inside the first 20 minutes, because if Rishabh bats an hour and a half, that lead will be gone. The lead will be plenty, and he's got it in him and his ability to. If he bats the session tomorrow morning, you have to say that India are going to be so far ahead of England that it's going to be very, very difficult for them.
Let's bring in Deep Dasgupta then, down there at Heathrow. Hello, Deep.
Hi there.
It's been a frustrating day. I'm sorry about that, and it must have been for you too. What do you make of a conversation about Pant then?
It's interesting. I mean, it's just amazing to hear both of you talking about, all three of you talking about him, because I mean, he's not going to change. He hasn't changed. When he got dropped from the Indian side, everyone thought he might change a bit and be a little more careful, but he hasn't. What he has in fact done is his choice has improved. He's choosing the right deliveries, the right bowlers, and for example, if you see, I won't be surprised if he does what he's done here today. I mean, stepping out in the very first over that he plays tomorrow. I won't be surprised at all, because what he wants to do is get someone like an Anderson off that area. So he'll do anything he can to get him off that line and length. So his style of batting is counter-punching. I mean, he's not one of those Pujara kind of batters who's going to hang in there and say, you know what, I'm going to see that spell through. He's like, okay, how can I get him off? He'd rather get him off after 3 overs, hitting him few 4s and 6s, than actually trying to see him off his whole spell of 5-6 overs.
Yeah. And generally about, we talked again about the sort of, the power of the Indian batting, but also the fragility. They haven't had much practice, and they're out there playing, this top level test cricket after a couple of months and so on. I mean, there was a little bit of rustiness there, maybe as well.
Absolutely, yes, and but not just about this. I mean, this has been an issue for the last couple of years now. Call it lack of red ball cricket, lack of just cricket, plain and simple, for people like Cheteshwar Pujara, because there is no domestic cricket happening and he does not play white ball cricket. Ajinkya, even though he plays in the IPL but doesn't get a lot of games, he sits out most of the time in the last year or so. Just lack of cricket per se, I think, and also the fact that the mindset that both Alistair and Michael were talking about. I mean, it's a different mindset now. It's about attacking. It's about counter-attacking. We hear those two terms quite frequently nowadays, rather than attritional cricket or the Pujara kinds. Seeing somebody off. Obviously, then you're playing high risk as well. So that can be counterproductive, and that's what has happened in the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, it's been a fascinating day. Let's bring in Andy Zaltzman to put a bit of a statistical input into all of this. I'm still intrigued, Andy, about the Anderson-Kohli match-up, as you call it these days, and how long it's taken Anderson to get him out.
It's taken him 7 years in Test cricket to get him out. He dominated him completely in the 2014 series, when, as Alistair said, Kohli really struggled early in his career. Got him out 4 times in 50 balls for 19 runs. Since then, hadn't dismissed him in 72.2 overs spread over 3 series. The last series here in England, 45 overs he bowled to Kohli without getting him out.
That's almost a second new ball.
And then first ball this series, though he was definitely unlucky against him in 2018. Kohli played with a great deal of restraint against Anderson. Didn't really seek to dominate him. So it's been one of the more compelling head-to-head clashes in Test cricket in recent years. But Kohli's form this decade, we're in the 2020s, a nascent decade in which Test cricket has been rather sporadic, has been pretty poor. He's averaging 23. And Rahane and Pujara as well have really been struggling. And looking at India's 3, 4 and 5 since January 2020, collectively in 12 tests, averaging 27.7. Now, of all the test-playing countries, only West Indies 3-4-5 have averaged less since the start of the decade. Just 1 century from 3, 4 and 5 for India in those 12 tests. And compare it with the previous 5 years, from January 2015 to December 2019, India's 3, 4 and 5 collectively averaged 49.7, the best of any test team, 54 tests. They scored 37 centuries between them. So it has been a massive strength of Indian batting. Those 3 players played the majority of those innings, but over the last year and a half, all 3 of them have struggled significantly.
Lovely. Andy, thank you very much indeed. And we'll see how that develops during the series, because if there is with some grass around and batting is going to be challenging, then certainly some pressure will be on those batting positions. Thank you, Andy. Right, we're going to move on. It was confirmed at lunchtime today that Jofra Archer, the fast bowler, of course, has been ruled out for the rest of the year. You're talking about everything. This Test series, of course, the World T20 and also the Ashes. He's got, again, this stress fracture in his right elbow. It's a recurrence. He had an operation, you might remember, some fragments of bone taken out previously. That was in May. He's paid a little bit, but unfortunately he became aware of increasing discomfort in his elbow during matches for Sussex recently, so he's now spending time on an extended break from cricket before returning for a medical review in the early autumn. So, first of all, it's desperately sad for Jofra himself, and I think everyone will hope that he gets over this injury as quickly as he possibly can. But I just wondered, let's start with Michael then. I mean, we've talked a bit about England and obviously this series, but also Australia, the plans they had in place, of which Archer was obviously key as well for the World T20 as well. And there are a few things going wrong now, frankly, not least the batting, the loss of Ollie Stone as well. So there's only Mark Wood left of any real pace for England, and we know that he's pretty injury prone himself. This is a bit of a blow. Yeah,
it's a big blow. I mean, in Test match cricket it's a blow, but that T20 World Cup, it's a massive blow. He's such a high class performer with the white ball. He's had a good start to his Test career, but of late he hasn't been unbelievable. But England will miss him massively, because you just look at that contest and that battle of Jofra Archer against David Warner, and he's had the wool over David Warner's eyes for quite a while now. And I think, when you've got that as a batter, and you're facing that ball, it doesn't matter what the format is. You feel a little bit intimidated by that confrontation once again. So it's a big blow. It worries me that in Test match cricket we may not see him again. You're looking at someone like Tim Bresnan. You look at Graham Swan with those elbow problems. I've never had anything wrong with my elbow, but I can only imagine as a bowler how hard it is.
It's about the worst injury you'd want.
And will it get to the stage where bowling 20 overs, 25 overs a day, week after week, is not going to be the best for Jofra Archer, whereas 4 overs, 10 overs, he may be able to manage his elbow well enough to continue playing in the white ball format. So there has to be a serious doubt whether we're going to see Jofra Archer getting Test match cricket. I hope that's not the case, but it really is a serious doubt. The wheels seem to have come off for England over the last few weeks, with what's been going on, the pandemic, the stories of the families not being able to travel to Australia, Ben Stokes' incident, Chris Wokes isn't here. You're mentioning now Jofra Archer,
Ollie Stone,
the batting lineup. It just seems that somehow they're going to have to try and regroup and get it together of what they need to do now, from the group that are going to be available to how they're going to get them playing consistently to try and compete with the Australians on the home soil, because missing out on someone like Jofra is a big blow.
A win here would start it off, wouldn't it? I think that ultimately where this England Test side have to start the rebuilding, because you can talk all you want, you can do all you want, but it's what happens on the field which starts that momentum. They've been dealt some tough cards. Joe Root in particular, as a captain, has been dealt some real tough cards over the last 2 years, with policies of resting red ball players to prioritise white ball for the World Cup. We've gone through this over and over again, and this was meant to be the build-up over the last 8 months to go to Australia with a fully fit squad, and it's falling apart. But sometimes that can be a really good place to start. Not rock bottom, but when the outside world are doubting you and everyone's saying, these guys can't play, they'll have no chance in Australia. Actually, in that dressing room now, it could be the thing which really starts. They hunker down as a squad, get really tight together, and then slowly build. I mean, they need to win games of cricket to make that, not just actual words. It has to be actions. And if I'm a little bit disappointed England couldn't get out there for another hour today, because that would have been there could have been 2 or 3 wickets. If it comes out tomorrow and there's some rain around, but if it's sunny and Rishabh Pant gets going for 2 hours, and this game will be very hard to win.
What are they going to do with Mark Wood? I mean, he's now suddenly this little crock of gold, and he's the only one they've got who's 90 miles an hour plus. What do they do?
Well, ultimately, what they have to do now is realise what they've got. I think sometimes you can talk about those that are missing so much that it affects the dressing room. And, we in the media will end up talking more about the fact that Ben Stokes in here, Jofra Archer's not here. Well, in that dressing room and in that group and in that management, they go, right, what have we got left? What do we have in our ranks that can somehow make us competitive in this series, throughout the rest of this test match, going through to Lords, to Headingley, to the Oval, to Old Trafford, and then at the end of this series, right, how can we regroup again and go to Australia and be competitive? And what have we got remaining? Because let's be honest, between now and Australia, with the pandemic, with the amount of cricket they play, the amount of tours they go on, the T20 World Cup, I don't think he'll be the last to drop out. There'll be more injuries. There generally always is. What's becoming more and more important in this is that senior pair, Broad and Anderson. That I think in Broad and Anderson now, we now absolutely know they're going to be playing a big part in the Ashes series, because the bowling stocks of England are faltering. And it may be that England have to just rejig their situation of style of play to try and just make sure that they, as I said, realise what they've got, what's in their group, and how can they maximise what's in the group that are going to be fit, going to be fresh, and going to be obviously down under in a few months' time. But first and foremost, the most important aspect, as Alistair said, they somehow have to start winning here. You don't go to Australia if you don't win games of cricket in your own backyard and beat Australia in their backyard.
Time now for some reaction then. James Anderson has been speaking to Simon Mann.
The frustration and then the elation, do you feel you're right back in the game?
Yeah, I do think we're in the game. We saw in our innings that there are times where you feel like you can score runs on that pitch and build partnerships, which they did. I thought they played really well, that opening pair. But we also saw that the wickets can fall in clusters. So we just thought if we stuck at our task, try and probe as much as we could, challenge their defence, that hopefully eventually the wickets would come.
How pleased were you with your performance today?
Yeah, I was really pleased. I felt maybe the first spell this morning I was economical, but maybe didn't challenge or make them play enough. So when I came back for my second spell, I made sure that was certainly something I was concentrating on, was trying to make them play as much as possible.
Talk us through the 2-in-2. Pujara first.
Yeah, so I was just trying to attack the stumps as much as I could, try and make them play. We had quite an aggressive field. We had a leg slip, I think, and short leg. So yeah, just trying to make them play, and he managed to nick it. It's weird how I bowled a lot of outswingers and beat the bat, but didn't look like getting an edge, and then I bowl sort of in-swingers and do get the edge. So it's strange how things work like that, but just delighted to get the wicket. And obviously Kohli, first ball, huge wicket for us. We know how influential a player he is, how good a player he is. So to get him that early was really important.
It's 72 overs since you got him out. Did you know that?
I do now. Thanks for that. We've had some great battles over the last few years, and he's such a good player that, especially, he had a tough first tour here in 2014 and then came back and played incredibly well. So he's a world-class player, and we're just delighted to get him out early.
What about the celebration?
Well, yeah, I think, somewhere in the back of my head, I must have known it was 72 overs since I last got him out. I was just delighted to get the wicket. 2-in-2 as well, a full house here at Trent Bridge. It was a great atmosphere. Just delighted to get that wicket early on.
And the hat-trick ball?
Yeah, really poor. Really disappointed. I had Stuart Broad in my ear talking me through his 2 Test hat-tricks that he got, telling me what to do with that ball. I was aiming for the stumps, but got it horribly wrong and went short and down the leg side. So I was really disappointed.
And just on your personal achievement, you're now joint third in the list. There's only Warne and Muralitharan ahead of you.
Yeah. Again, that's great. Not really something that I'm focusing on. I've got a job to do for my team here, trying to get these 10 wickets and win this game. That's all we're thinking about, all I'm thinking about, and those sorts of things will take care of themselves.
There's something else that did happen off the field today, the news of Jofra Archer out for the rest of the year. What's your reaction to that? I mean, as a team, really?
Yeah, well, obviously hugely disappointed for Jofra. It's something that's been niggling away at him for a couple of years. So I think obviously that immediate frustration and disappointment that he won't be around for the rest of the year. But at the same time, just hope that this is sort of the end of it now. He can really focus on getting better and stronger and come back whenever it might be next year and put on an England shirt again, because he's a huge part of our team. He's been a huge part, particularly the white ball team's success over the last couple of years. So we just wish him all the best, and hopefully he'll come back soon.
How big a setback is it in terms of the Ashes? I know you're not involved in the white ball team, but you're very much involved in the red ball team. What about the Ashes?
Yeah, again, a huge loss for us. We've seen how influential he is as a bowler, particularly in big matches. World Cup finals, the Ashes 2019 here as well, how big a part he played in that. But at the same time, we've got a really strong group of bowlers that we can call upon. With guys here that are missing out, that could do a great job for England. So, it's a great opportunity for someone to come in and fill his shoes.
Jimmy, thanks very much indeed.
Cheers,
well done.